that will be done on earth as it is in heaven.
Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil.
Saint John,
Pray for us.
Saint John Paul II,
Pray for us.
Saint Bartholomew,
Pray for us.
So, dear friends, we are beginning this short retreat in this quiet place. And during this retreat, I'd like to meditate on some fundamental dimensions of an apostle of Christ. Since you are now studying at SJI, and you wish to receive a formation to be a good evangelizer for the 21st century, I think it is worth looking at evangelizers in the New Testament. And actually, the first evangelizer, Jesus, of course, number one, but after Jesus, the first evangelizers were the apostles. And the first SJI, in a sense, was founded by Jesus, you see. It lasted for more than 2 years, actually. The curriculum was 3 years. 3 years of studies with Jesus, with classes, Jesus' speeches, and private instructions to the apostle, plus practical things, exercises. I think that, and yes, you smile, understandably enough, but I think there is much to learn from this first SJI. First, to learn to see Jesus teaching, forming the first evangelizers. And after Pentecost, we see that during the study cycle, the first students had a hard time, actually, apparently. But after Pentecost, they give us wonderful examples, really. And that's another little sign of divine providence, that we will begin the retreat by the feast of Saint Bartholomew, so one of the apostles. And I think during the retreat, I would suggest you yet to pray the Lord, to pray Saint John, and today to pray Saint Bartholomew, so that you would better understand what it means for you concretely to be an evangelizer for your own country in your time, 21st century. Obviously, in 5 talks, I will not be able to address all dimensions, obviously enough. So I will just try to emphasize some of them, which seem to me to be among the most important ones, I think. And maybe the first thing to do would be to look at the choice of the apostles by Jesus. We have various versions. Basically, we have 2 main versions. We have the synoptic version and the version in the Gospel of John. Let us begin with the Markan version. So Mark 3:13. Jesus went up on the mountain and called to him those whom he desired, and they came to him. And he appointed 12 to be with him and to be sent out to preach and have authority to cast out demons. And then you have the traditional list of the apostles, always beginning by Simon Peter, and ending by poor Judas Iscariot, who betrayed him. So in this short text of Mark, we first see that the choice of the apostle was preceded by a prayer of Jesus. It may be more visible in the Lucan version, because Luke is the one who emphasizes most the prayer of Jesus. Yes, Luke 6:12. He went out to the hills to pray, and all night he continued in prayer to God. And when it was day, he called his apostles and chose from them 12. From them, because at that time the disciples were more numerous than 12. And among the disciples who were not chosen at that time, you had the future apostle Matthias, who would be chosen to substitute Judas after Easter. So you see, the choice of Jesus, he's a choice in prayer, which is a contemplative choice. That's not an act of fancy or a wit. It's really an act of love. And actually, that's always the way Jesus looks at us. He looks at us in the light of his Father, as brothers and sisters given to him by the Father. And I think that's something very nice to meditate upon and to contemplate. Jesus looks at us as brothers and sisters given to him by the Father. We may see that, for example, in his prayer, John 17, Father, those you have given me, I want them to be with me. But in the case of the apostle, there is a particular choice. So he chose 12 among the group of in the group of his disciples, and that little detail is important in Mark. First point, to be with him, which means that an apostle is first a companion of Jesus. He's not first of all a worker. He's first of all a companion of Jesus. So he appointed 12 to be with him. Then, of course, to be sent out to preach, have authority to cast out demons. I suppose that will not be your main mission, to cast out demons. Unless, well, who knows, that you will become so holy that the demons will be afraid of you. But normally the general case is that exorcism is reserved to the bishop and to those priests, not all of them, actually, usually just a little number of them, who receive from him authority. But I like this first point, he appointed 12 to be with him, to be a companion of Jesus, and not only a companion, but a friend. This is what Jesus explicitly says in John 15, so during the Last Supper. John 15:15, no longer do I call you servants, for the servant does not know what his master is doing. But I have called you friends, for all that I have heard from my Father, I have made known to you. Yes, because That's something we see in Aristotle, in Nicomachean Ethics, books 8 and 9, which are really jewels on human friendship. The criterion of a true friendship, or the criterion which enables us to measure the quality of a friendship, is koinonia in Greek, which means at the same time communion, sharing, exchange. Basically, it means, what are you willing to share with your friend? And you will not share your most intimate secrets with any friend of yours. Only with intimate friends will you share your most intimate secrets. And the fact that you can do that with a specific person is a clear sign that that person is a good friend of yours. Precisely here, I call you friends, for all that I have heard from my Father, I have made known to you. So Jesus revealed the secrets of his life with the Father, his relationship with the Father. He shared that secret with them, which is really a clear sign of deep friendship indeed. Of course, this is true for all Christians, but that's particularly true for apostles. And that is something which is so important to keep in mind. An apostle is first of all a companion, a friend of Jesus. Before doing things, yes, he will do things, of course, but first of all, he has to be a friend of Jesus. And we shall see texts which show very clearly what happens if the apostle forgets this point. There are serious consequences. We find a similar teaching in a different way in the Gospel of John with the vocation of the first apostles. In the Gospel of John, chapter 1, John tells us the story, the vocation story, of 5 of the 12. John, Andrew, Peter, Philip, Nathanael, so most probably Bartholomew. But since this is the feast of Saint Bartholomew, I think I will speak a little bit about Saint Bartholomew during the homily at Mass. Saint John, I spoke a little bit about him Tuesday evening. But it is quite significant that the first vocation story which would be mentioned in John precisely is that one, Rabbi, where do you dwell? They came to him, they saw where he was dwelling, and they dwelt, they stayed, they remained with him that day. And I commented to you the conclusion of the fourth gospel, if I want him to remain until I come. Now, this is true for all apostles, but it is illustrated in a powerful way by the vocation story of St. John. To be with Jesus or to remain with him, basically that's the same thing. Now, of course, a great question would be, how do we remain with Jesus? During when the apostles were making their studies, so to speak, they would be with Jesus almost constantly. Almost. There are very few exceptions. We don't have time to look at them, but it would be interesting to see why at some points Jesus would be alone without the apostles. But there'll be something interesting, I think. Suggestion for deeper study. But most of the time, the apostles were constantly with Jesus. And of course, they enjoyed the physical presence of Jesus, which, without doubt, was something wonderful. That is not our case, obviously. We live in faith. And at times, if we are not careful enough, we could easily be tempted to have regrets, or it would be so great to see Jesus, to hear him, to touch him, and so on and so on. That reaction is quite understandable, but I would say careful. There were so many people who saw Jesus, heard him, touched him. How many of them were true believers, really? How many of them really took advantage of that amazing grace to come to know the Word made flesh in their life? Not so many, apparently. And we also have to remember some passages. Maybe the most powerful one for us is the Beatitude stated in John 20, the Gospel of Thomas. Because you have seen me, Thomas, you believe. Blessed are those who have not seen and yet believe. And you see, that beatitude is for us, provided we accept to live in faith. It's a beatitude. Jesus likes faith. He likes it a lot. That's a very striking point. When he does not see faith, he complains. And at times, he corrects. If you don't see signs and wonders, you shall not believe. And on the contrary, remember the Canaanite woman, that gospel we had a few days ago. Oh, woman, great is your faith. Jesus almost cannot refuse anything to somebody who has a very strong faith. If you had faith, you would say to that mountain, move yourself and go to another place, and it would obey you. Nothing would be impossible to you. And another passage where I like to put in parallel with John 20 is that sense of Jesus during the Last Supper. Because I told you that I was leaving, you are sad, but I tell you, it is good for you that I go. For if I don't go, the Paraclete will not come upon you. Apparently, the disciples were not understanding very well what was going on. They just understood that Jesus was going to leave, and because of that, they were sad. And of course, from a human point of view, Jesus' departure was a terrible loss for them. But we have to take it seriously. It is good for you that I go. Because if I don't go, the Paraclete shall not come upon you. But if I go, I will send him. This means that the gift of the Paraclete, the Holy Spirit, is something greater and better than Jesus' physical presence. That's a powerful statement indeed. Before Easter and Pentecost, Jesus was present to the apostles, of course, but that was an exterior presence. With the gift of the Holy Spirit, Jesus' presence became interior. Jesus became present in their heart. And that's a permanent presence. Who can separate us from the love of Christ? Nothing. So it is so important for us to understand that Jesus is not absent. He is present, constantly present. Now, of course, his presence is accessible to us in faith. Most probably, you will not see Jesus, you shall not have an apparition or hear interior locutions. Jesus speaking to your heart in a direct way. Those phenomena are very rare and are not without risk. I spoke a little bit about it a few days ago. But Jesus is present. Jesus speaks to us. How does he speak to us? Well, he speaks first through the written word of God. There are some people complaining when I pray, I speak to God, but God does not speak to me. Sorry? God speaks to us in his written word. This also explains the crucial importance of reading the Word of God and eating it as a food. Man does not live by bread alone, but by every word coming out from the mouth of God, says Deuteronomy, quoted by Jesus when he is tempted by the devil in the desert. So Jesus is always present to me, in me, by grace, according to his wonderful promise in John 14. If somebody loves me, he will keep my word. My Father will love him. We will come to him and make our home with him. And if the Father and the Son are present, you guess that the Holy Spirit too. And it is something too many people ignore or forget. The presence of God, the presence of the Trinity in their souls. And I think it was maybe one of the main missions of Saint Elizabeth of the Trinity to remind us of that presence. Because when she was young and when she discovered that the Trinity was present in her soul, that really changed her life. That really changed her life. God is in me. He is present in the depth of my soul. The three persons are present. So how do we live by that presence of God? So yes, as I said, we need faith. And actually it is through the three theological virtues, faith, hope, and charity, that we live by that presence of the Lord. That's the privilege of the theological virtues, to put us in direct touch with the Lord. Something no other virtue can do. God is with us. Unfortunately, we are not always with Him. I like that sad complaint of Augustine in his Confessions when he was looking at his past life, far from God, before his conversion. Mecum eras sed tecum non eram. You were with me, but I was not with you. God is with us. God constantly looks at us, thinks about us in love and mercy. And I would say, well, thank God, because if by impossible God would forget us for a short time, then we would immediately vanish into nothingness. You see? It is because God thinks about us that we exist. But fortunately, there is no danger that God would forget us. But God is constantly with us. He constantly looks at us with love. That's important to understand. It's a gaze of love. It's not the gaze of the policeman looking for everything we have done wrong. No, it is the loving gaze of a father. In the case of Jesus, the loving gaze of the master and of the elderly brother, the elder brother, at his little brothers and sisters. And we have to be with him, we have to look at him, we have to love him. And this is exactly what the theological virtues enable us to do. Through baptism, we receive divine life in our soul. We receive that wonderful presence of the Holy Trinity. And in His goodness, God gives us a package. So during this retreat, each one of you received a package for the year. But at baptism, God gives us a package for life. And it's a wonderful package indeed. There are several things in it. The most precious part being the theological virtues, faith, hope, and charity. And if you are curious about the other things in the package, you have infused moral virtues, and last but not least, the gifts of the Holy Spirit. So things we need to live our Christian life, things we need to be in touch with Him. So I think it is something important to understand. Faith, hope, and charity are necessary for me to be in touch with God. Because if I don't live by faith, hope, and charity, I will not think about Him. And the kind of thing which, well, because of human weakness, can happen even in the chapel. Whenever I have a distraction, I can say God is with me, but I am at that very moment, I am not with Him. I am with myself, with my dreams, whatever. But when I do an act of faith, Lord, I believe you are present in my heart, or I believe you are present in the Blessed Sacrament, then I am in touch with him. I am in touch with him. And charity, of course, that's the most wonderful gift of God. A share in God's love. It is something I think most people don't realize enough, that incredible gift that God would offer us, his friendship. And I think too many people take it for granted. While Aristotle, in a very clever way, I think, in the Nicomachean Ethics, explains to us that no friendship with God is possible. Now, of course, he's speaking at a natural philosophical level. And I think that his argument is correct and very realistic. Why, from a philosophical point of view, why is friendship with God impossible? Because the sharing is impossible. There is no friendship without sharing. In order to have friendship, what do you need? You need to, first, you love your friend. It has to be reciprocal, because if your friend does not love you, sorry, it's going to be a one-way friendship, which is not a friendship. And at times, yes, if that happens, that can be painful, of course. But you see, friendship is free. You cannot compel somebody, I want you to be my friend. Well, if you say that, you say, oh, wait a minute. Friendship is free. So that love has to be reciprocal, but that's not enough, says Aristotle. You need the sharing, koinonia, because otherwise, just think of, you remember your human experience? If you would say, oh yes, we are very intimate friends, so how often do you meet together? Well, we don't meet together. There's no need for that. We are just friends. Really? You say that you are great friends, and you don't feel the need to meet together? To share about your life? What kind of friendship is that? And here, the experience, maybe not that, if we are not married, that's not our personal experience, or not yet, but at least we can look at the experience of others. Marriage may have a lot to teach us, you see. Normally, husband and wife desire to live together and so to meet as often as possible. Otherwise, what kind of love is that? And Aristotle said that from a human point of view, what kind of sharing can I have with God? I have my life, he has his own life. Aristotle was clever enough to understand that God's love was contemplative. I have no experience of God's life. God is just too far from me. And Aristotle is perfectly correct. And I think it's important to understand this point to better appreciate God's wonderful gift. God knows that we cannot have a friendship with him. So he takes the initiative to offer us his friendship. Would you like to be my friend? That's incredible. Really. That's incredible. God who is perfect, God who does not need us, God, nonetheless, out of pure love, offers us his friendship. That's amazing. And that's the marvel of charity. That is the marvel of charity. Through charity, I love God with that same quality of love there is in the Trinity. As the Father has loved me, so have I loved you. And to designate this specific kind of love, divine love, the authors of the New Testament chose a specific term in Greek, agape, charity. It is not human love, it is divine love, which is much greater. And thanks to charity, I become able to not only to receive God's love, but also to respond to Him. And so to live a friendship with Him. And already on earth, I can have a sharing with God. God shares with me His secrets, and I share my life with Him. Now, as long as I live on earth, that sharing is imperfect. Yes, that is true. But God's intention is that one day the sharing will be perfect in heaven. So I think it is important to understand this point. The theological virtues we received at baptism enable us to be in touch with God. God is present in me, but I can reach Him in faith, hope, and charity. And that is more precious than if I just had Jesus' physical presence without faith, hope, and charity. As it happened for many people in the Holy Land at the time of Jesus. Who is that man? So you see, to be with Him, to be His companions, to be His strength, this means that we have to be concerned about our theological life, which is the most precious life we have. I know that part of the program of SJR is the course of Philosophy of the Living Being, I think. So you will see, or some of you maybe already studied that point, that human being is incredibly complex. You have the vegetative life, we have it in common with plants. That's our life when we sleep. We have the sensitive life, we share in common with animals, with dogs, passion of anger, for example. We have the spiritual life from a human point of view, so we have our intelligence, our will. And number 4, last but not least, we have divine life. And all of this in unity. You see, those lives are not separated from each other. They are distinct but not separated. And we have to be concerned about our theological life, because it is thanks to this life that we are in touch with God. And the stronger our theological life, the more we shall be with God. The more we shall be His companions and friends. That's important to understand. Last month for Sunday Gospels we had successively the various parables of Matthew 13, 7 parables. The kingdom of God is similar to a seed. What does it mean? It means that we receive divine life at baptism as a tiny seed. The seed is not yet the tree. And yet, it has the vocation to become a tree. Provided it can grow and develop, then he will become a tree. And so, the theological virtues we have received from God have the vocation to grow, to develop, so that divine life may grow and develop. Because also that's something interesting in philosophy of the living being. When you look at vegetative life, you see first it goes up from birth until the age of adulthood, at 30 more or less. Then it remains more or less at the same level for an extra 30 years, and then it goes down until the final catastrophe, death. That's not the case of human spiritual life. I mean, until the end of my life, I am able to discover new things or to learn new things. I am able to know new people. I am able to make new friends. I may grow in my friendship. So already the spiritual life at the human level has no direct limit. Keep this in mind, those of you who are married or those who maybe shall marry in the future. Because too many people don't realize that. They think that love at the time of their marriage is enough. Sorry, that's not the case. That's not true. At the time of marriage, passionate love, so sensitive love, is very strong, and that is quite normal. But you cannot build a marriage just on passion. It would not stand. It has to be rooted in a spiritual love, free choice, and something which has to grow, please. Please. Don't be satisfied with the love of your spouse at the time of marriage. No, understand that you have to know your spouse better, that your spouse is a mystery you have to discover. And you are responsible for that. You have to be concerned about knowing the other better and growing your friendship. So you see, already the spiritual life at the human level has no limit. That's even more true for the theological life, the divine life. It has to grow. And earthly life is the time for growth. Remember the parable of the talents. Matthew 25. That man who received a talent, Lord, you gave me 1 talent, now I give it back to you. You have what is your own, but okay. And he said, no, sorry, I gave it to you because I was expecting you to produce interest as your fellow companions did. Lord, you gave me 5 talents here. Here I give you 5 more, good servant. Same thing for the ones who received 2 talents. So we receive grace so that grace would grow and develop as a nice spiritual tree, producing all its fruit. And if you wish to see and to know a little bit what are those fruit this tree is called to produce, You may look, for example, at Galatians 5. Galatians 5:22. The fruit of the Spirit is charity, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. These are exquisite fruit indeed. One of the nice things with the theological virtue is the fact that at any time of the day, you may do an act of faith, an act of hope, an act of charity. That's up to you. God gave you the virtues, and at any time you may use them. Jesus, I love you. And when I say that, not necessarily with exterior words, you see, I am in touch with him, I love him. Now, of course, when we are sleeping, that's not possible. That was the privilege of Jesus, to go on loving constantly, even when he was sleeping. Okay. But our problem is not so much when we are sleeping, it's rather when we are awake and when we forget about God. So you have those people, they do their morning prayer very quickly, maybe a final prayer at the end of the day, and that's it. Or for some people, we just do Sunday Mass. Well, okay, but that way you see your spiritual, your divine life is not going to grow very much. When you truly love somebody, again, you wish to live by his presence. And again, the theological virtue puts you in direct touch with God. That's great. Direct touch. Beyond what we see, what we feel, but we know it is a direct touch. So it is important to remember them, to remember that they are a great gift of God for us, to enable us precisely to become his friends, to live as friends. But this divine life has to grow. How does it grow? Well, first, since grace comes from God, you see, only God can be the cause of growth. We cannot increase our faith, hope, and charity by ourselves. That's the difference with human virtues. You may grow in your human virtues through education, through practice. You may become more prudent, for example, or wiser. But it's not by yourself that you may grow in charity. Only God can increase your charity. Now, how will God increase your charity, your faith and your hope? God will do it, but in correspondence with the way you cooperate. You see? It's not something automatic. You are not a robot, you are not a computer, you are a free person, and God has a tremendous respect for your freedom. So I would say a first point would be to understand the need to grow. The second point would be to desire to grow. And I'm afraid too many Christians just don't have a real desire to grow. And which is sad. And the paradox is, the more you grow, the more you shall desire to grow more. And that's a good sign if that happens. You have a counter example, by way of contrast, the church of Laodicea in Revelation chapter 3. That church seems to say, God, oh Lord, everything is okay, I don't need anything, perfect. And Jesus says to that church, I will spit you out of my mouth. Because you are tepid. You say, I am rich. I don't need anything. And you don't see that you are poor, wretched, miserable, naked. That's one of the sharpest corrections of Jesus in the New Testament. The letter to the church of Laodicea. That church is totally self-satisfied. No, I'm okay. I don't need anything. Really? Now, Jesus hates that, really. That is, we have to accept that as long as we live on earth, we are in the stage of growth. And growth will not stop before the end of our earthly life. And that's the way it should be. And so it is so important to have that desire to grow. I want to know Jesus better. I want to love him more. And of course, I want to become a better evangelizer. So that desire is crucial. If we don't desire to grow, our growth shall be quite limited and slow. But if we have a strong desire to grow, then God shall respond. And he will make us grow. So maybe we shall see how exactly, but at least I would emphasize those first 2 points. Understand that we are in a stage of growth, and to desire that growth. And not thinking, well, I think I have grown enough. God is good. God does not really expect from me more things than what I am doing now. Well, you see, that's not exactly the case. Because it is quite clear from Scripture that God is calling us to holiness. So, and the more we shall know, understand Jesus' love for us, the more we shall feel the desire to respond with greater faithfulness and with greater generosity. And this should go on and grow until the end of our life, because again, we are earthly life. It's a life. It's the time for growth. And when the Lord thinks that we have grown enough, but he takes us. You see, He takes us. But we know that if we remain on earth, it is because we have to grow more. Also because the good Lord wants to use us, yes, to serve other people, of course, but that's also because we have to grow more. So we may thank the Lord for that wonderful gift of His friendship. We may ask Him really to give us a greater awareness of our responsibility. God is the first one to love us, and now He is waiting for a response. He's anxious for a response, but with a tremendous respect for our freedom.